like the yin and yang thing's a big thing for me right now. Of like, it doesn't always need to be good. Like it's okay for things to suck. You actually need that. The sucky is just important as the good stuff. So being okay with that, I think that's a pretty big thing.
Hi, I'm Zane with Zane Engineers Life, and today we have a great treat. We have Chuck the Contractor, one of the coolest dudes on the internet right now. He's got an amazing digital marketing business, mainly for contractors in the trades. He grew up in the trades, he worked in the trades, and he was like, hammering may not be as amazing as I think it is. I'm going to go do something else. So he has built an amazing digital marketing company out of that and is helping contractors. Chuck, welcome.
Thank you, Zane. Good to be here.
Awesome, man. Let's just jump right into it. So, you do not have a college degree, is that true?
That is true.
How do you run a business? Like, how do you manage without a college degree? All these kids are told go to college or you can't do anything. What do you think about that?
Well, I do it one day at a time. And I actually started in college. I did 3 semesters in community college here. And it was the week before finals, and I was in a business 101 class getting taught business by someone who had never run a business. And they were flunking me because even though I aced the tests, I didn't show up to all the classes. And so I just walked out and I never went back. And I worked all sorts of different jobs, but I eventually settled on being a business owner. And it's been 6 years and I haven't looked back.
Well, you worked in the trades for a while, so you've kind of seen all sides of it. You grew up, I think your dad was a builder or a contractor, mine was as well. So we've got a pretty similar background there. But you saw how for a long time in this country we made blue collar bad. Hey, you got to go to college or you're dumb. You don't want to be the dumb guy swinging a hammer and all these kind of things. Have you noticed over the last few years how that's kind of transformed and kind of turned the other direction?
Yeah, it seems so. Like, I didn't get into the trades as a choice. It was my dad was in the business, and anytime I came home and I needed work, I would go started carrying garbage, and eventually it was basically running the show. But definitely, it wasn't like never in school did anybody say, "Oh, joining the trades and learning those skills is a good idea." Like, it's always just go to college, go to college. That's the only way. And certainly in the last, since COVID started, since 2020, contractors and tradespeople have been in such high demand that it's almost impossible to find one in a lot of places. And so they're charging more money, they're making higher salaries, they're driving the super nice trucks. It's starting to come back. I don't know if that's the term, like in vogue, but it's starting to come back as like, oh, maybe this is a good idea.
Now, speak to that for a minute. Let's pick that kid up. He's 18, 19, 20. Um, he can kind of tell school's not really for him, but his parents are really on his ass. Maybe they're engineers or architects or marketing people or work in a corporation, and they think the only way is to go get that college degree, or there's no way they can be successful. Like, what do you tell that kid? How does he navigate it? Does he disappear from his parents? Does he go to college and just kind of, do the minimum while working his side gig? Like, what kind of advice do you have for that person?
Everybody's situation is so different. But I guess the advice I have is just that college isn't the only way. When I was growing up, I'm a on the tail end, I guess, of being a millennial. So we didn't have internet when I was a little kid, and then the internet came out as soon as I kind of became a teenager, and so I grew up with it. But I also remember what life was like before. And before the internet, like going to college was one of the main ways to learn how the world works, to gain the skills you need to go get a job. But these days, unless you're going to college for a degree that is specifically required by the profession you want, like a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that, most of the skills that you need to do work you can acquire online. And I started as a contractor. I watched tons of YouTube videos about carpentry, learning how to frame, lay out buildings, install windows, like everything. And now, as the owner of a digital marketing company, I literally learned everything that we do on the internet. It's all online and it was all free. It just took work to do. So, if your parents are really pushing you in a certain direction, I think you have to realize your parents are people too. And you realize that as you get older, you start to look at your parents as, oh, they're actually just humans, just like me, and they have their own opinions and biases, and they want the best for you, and so they're going to try to push you to what they think is best. But at the end of the day, you're the only one responsible for yourself, and you got to choose your own path. So I think just knowing that it's not a requirement to do most things to go to college, uh, that's enough for you to just do it.
Well, one of the paths I take them on a lot of times is, well, what's your track record? Like you're a freaking kid. You've done nothing. Like maybe you sold newspapers or comic books or whatever the hell kids do nowadays, shoes. Like my kid sells shoes to his buddies, right? But what have you actually done? Now, if your parents are extremely non-successful, maybe you don't listen to them at all. But maybe they've had some success. Maybe your dad owns a rental house. Maybe he's got a small business, those kind of things. And I often tell those kids is, well, what if you went down their path for a little bit and did it really, really well and exceeded expectations and got your A's and did more than you had to do, building the habit of doing that in everything that you do, while also exploring other opportunities. Like if you think selling stuff on Amazon is the way to go, well, make your A's in your marketing classes and make 200K selling on Amazon, and then come back to your dad and go, now what? And I give that as an example from my own childhood. My neighbor up the street, he started buying and selling four wheelers. And so he would, it was newspapers at the time. He'd look in the newspaper, he'd find a four wheeler, he'd go chew them down, negotiate, 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 get it for a low price. We would literally armor all the tires, put it back in the paper for triple, and sell it within a day or two. And his dad, who was a corporate guy, got to go to college, got to get a degree, got to do this, started noticing random people coming to the house. And then suddenly his son's got nicer shoes and suddenly a nicer truck. And, we're wearing chains and nice watches that are nicer than his. And finally he came and said, what the hell are you guys doing? And we showed him the books. And he was like, shit, that's more money than I've made in my entire life in the stock market. So he actually sold a portion of his retirement stuff and put it into this business, and we grew it. And that's how we started funding deals. We started doing $20,000 motorcycles and $40,000 cars and stuff like that. But until he had shown it, he kind of stayed along his dad's path, right? To me, there's no reason to like butt heads with them or tell them they're stupid, because you don't know that yet. Like you haven't proven they're dumb. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, well, when I think about it, like when you go to college, you're taught by professors. Like everybody in that world, like they know that part of the world. They know school, they know corporate jobs. That's what they understand. But what I've come to realize is that's only like 15% of the world. The other 85% is like you describe it. Like there are people hustling, doing all sorts of stuff, making really good money that you never hear about. You can't learn about them in college because nobody there even knows they exist. And so I think there's a million ways to do it. Another thing that comes to mind is kind of based on my own experience. You said you should consider following the path your parents want you to follow and do it really well. Is that what you were saying? And then show them that show them that you can do it well, and then continue to explore other paths. And I think an important lesson that you learn when you're older, it's like almost impossible. It was impossible for me to learn this as a young person. People tried, but it didn't get in. But I had tons of experiences all through my teens and 20s working. I've probably had 50 different jobs, and there wasn't a point to any of it besides getting my $600 paycheck and going partying with my buddies. Like that's all I could think about. But in retrospect, I'm grateful that for some reason I took a lot of my jobs really seriously. I did really well. I always like rose to the top and then would get bored and I'd move to the next one. And I'm grateful I did that because now a lot of the successes I have come from those experiences that I had when I was younger that I thought were pointless and didn't mean anything. But it actually turns out that they gave me the knowledge and experience that I use today to do all sorts of things. And so as a young person, it's like you might not know what to do, but whatever you do end up spending your time on, because you got to spend your time doing something, it definitely you'll be happy with yourself later if you do the best you can, whatever it is. Even if you're just mowing lawns on the weekends, like do the best you can, make your customers as happy as possible, make as much money as you can, like do whatever and take it seriously because these experiences that you have now will be what you draw upon in the future to do whatever you're going to do that really means something to you then.
Yeah, and I mean, it's almost become a buzzword on the internet of how you do anything is how you do everything. So the thing there is it's an opportunity to gain experience doing something and doing it really well. And if you can pattern yourself and create lists and make sure you get them done and what's the done for the day task, you can do that with your workouts, the way you eat, the way you mow grass, the way you go to school, the way you start your own business. Like they carry through, and holding yourself to a really high standard in everything that you do. I think another key part of that, and one of the things I really push in my advice, is you can learn something from everyone. So there's probably a bit of truth to what your mom and dad are saying. Even though it may have only worked back in their day and it doesn't work now, there's something in there that you can use, right? Just don't throw it all out and go, well, they're boomers, they're old, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, right? Well, they might not, but there's probably a nugget of truth in there somewhere. Do you have any experiences of maybe something your dad said that you're like, that's ridiculous? And now you look back and you're like, man, that was pretty solid.
Well, yeah, my dad always pushed me to actually go to college and study geology because he always said it'd be super cool to get paid to travel around the world and make lots of money. And so that's what I majored in college. Ended up not pursuing that path. But it's funny that like 20 years later, I'm traveling the world, making a bunch of money, basically getting all the benefits of that path without actually following it. So he was right about that stuff.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on to another thing that I've been pushing pretty hard here. And this is, I believe there's a massive opportunity right now with all of the boomer businesses that are out there. They're small businesses, maybe they're 0 to 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, something like that. They don't have a succession plan. Maybe they have kids, but their kids had to work in their business when they were kids like we did, and they don't want a damn thing to do with that business, right? That business is stress. That business is bad. That's the reason dad didn't come to my baseball games, all that kind of like there's such a stigma with it. But to me, there's a massive opportunity out there, especially for those kids who may not want to go to school to take over those businesses, not to buy them, not to come up with $1 million somewhere and buy a business, but to take it over, to do seller finance, to find some way to come in and help them. If you were looking at that now, if you were coming in as a 21, 22-year-old and you got that advice from people like me and you, how might you execute that? Any thoughts?
Well, when I was 21, I was a total idiot and I probably wouldn't have listened. But I'd say if I do know a lot of young people who are going into business for themselves or taking over companies and are making a lot of fast gains, and it's really cool to see. Um, I mean, if I was young and I saw a business that I might want to take over or pursue, then I'd go get a job there and just start learning how everything works. Ask tons of questions, try to understand all the pieces and how the whole thing works. I mean,
So,
I
so
think
I'm
that's
hearing
what
you
I would
saying
do.
go in there and get a job but become the best employee they've ever had. Ask so many
Yeah,
questions that
just
you understand the business better than they do.
yeah, and take initiative. Like do as much as you can. Anticipate what's going to be needed next, and always do that.
I don't think people understand how low the bar is for people like me that are looking for people to take over their business, right? Because there's so few people that, especially in the trades, that A will show up, B will actually show up, C won't leave early, right? The bar is super low to actually being a good employee, that being the best one there isn't really even that much harder, right?
Yeah, that's true. There seems to be a serious lack of understanding of like the other side. Like amongst employees, a lot of the people I know that really hate their jobs or they complain about it a lot, um, they don't understand what it's like to hire them, to have them as an employee. Like they just don't even comprehend that there's another side to the coin. And that's the key. Like I could be the best employee on the planet now because I know what it's like to be a boss. So I can be like, okay, well, if I was the boss, what would I want to see? And then I can just do that and I would immediately be the best employee. And anybody who can do that will rise through the ranks. They might even have the business be given to them someday.
100%. There's a lot of businesses, like I was on a call with one this morning, and the guy really only wants two things. He wants the name of the business to continue, and he wants his employees he has now to be part owners. And that's all he cares about. Like everything else is just small details to him. So he wants the legacy to continue. He wants his customers to be taken care of, and that's huge, especially in the engineering industry we're in. And he wants his staff to have a place to continue to grow. So it's not that hard, right? I mean, the dude's not asking a lot. He's not saying, give me $1 billion and I'll walk out in 5 minutes. He's literally saying, I'll stay around as long as it takes to make that happen, as long as it looks like we're on the path to do that. So I think there's massive opportunity out there. And I know maybe you can give me some ideas in the trade profession. In engineering, massive amount of engineers are retiring. We probably get a customer every few months. Their engineer died, not retired, like he's not even here anymore. Um, is it the same in the trades? Are there opportunities? Could I go find a home builder that's doing 30, 40 houses a year and help take it over the next few years? Like, what do you see out there?
Yeah, there's definitely tons of opportunity. It's been the case for many years that at least on the ground level, it seems like there's more people leaving the industry than coming into it. So there's more like when I go, work with a framing crew or something, it's usually like three really old dudes and one young guy. And the old dudes are like in their 60s and they've been doing this their whole lives and they know a lot of stuff, but they're not going to be able to do it much longer. And there's just a lot of companies like that. A lot of people who are going to be retiring soon that there's nobody behind them to take it over.
Well, I mean,
Like not just
even
nobody that wants to, but there's not anybody there.
yeah, I mean, it's a numbers game. We're running out of them in droves. There's opportunities to take three or four of those businesses and roll them up into one bigger business, right? There's massive opportunity at scale right there for those kind of things. And like you said, I can think of one guy I know, he got a machine tool degree and he started working at a machine shop. The next youngest guy was 57, and they all called the 57-year-old junior and baby and newbie because everybody else was like 70 or 80 years old. I mean, I don't think people understand that the skill sets that were there are all 50 and above. The really good framers, the really good siding guys, the really good, they've been doing it a long time. And like you said, there's a huge gap. There's not any 30 or 40-year-olds doing this stuff. Now we've got to find a way to get these 20-year-olds involved and show them the opportunity that's there and then get them out of their own way, right? For me, as I teach and talk to a lot of my students and kids, imposter syndrome is the big killer for them. So one of the things that I'm trying to get out of you, I guess, is talking about the trades is, are there really opportunities there, Chuck? Like, could I really do this? Like, how would I actually make this happen? If those were the questions that were thrown at you, what would you say?
Well, of course, there's tons of opportunity. Anybody can do it. Um, everybody has imposter syndrome for something. If you go to a job that you've never done before and you don't know anything, Of course you have imposter syndrome. Like, why wouldn't you? You don't know what you're doing. That's just that's just part of life, and it's actually a good thing because if you were totally comfortable all the time, it means you're not doing anything that's challenging and difficult for you. So you're not growing. So it's it's all about attitude. Like, I've hired a lot of kids to come be apprentices, and you can make all the mistakes in the world as long as you show up on time, you're ready to go, you have a good attitude, that you can develop all the rest of the skills, and people will be patient with you if you prove that you're willing to put in the work and smash your thumb once in a while and not give up.
I think that's a huge
Everybody will
point
help
that I
you.
think is missed because I've got an opportunity right now. I'm helping a guy get a marketing company started from within my company, and we're literally a safety net. He can make a mistake and not lose his house. He can make a mistake and not lose his wife and kids. He can make a mistake and still be able to eat that night, right? I think a lot of people miss that. They think they've got to go start their own thing and make their own mistakes. Nah, get in there and just like you said, if you're showing up, if you're getting things done, if you're doing your best, if you're making that effort, you're going to make mistakes. We're humans. That's what we do. Humans make mistakes, right? And I think you'll be able to get through those a little faster too, because the old timer will now tell you how to not make that mistake again. He'll see you right before you make the major mistake and keep you from doing it. Hey, have you thought about doing such and such, right? You've heard that from those guys. Hey, Chuck, sure you want to do it like that?
Yeah, if it's life threatening.
Now, if you're just going to
A lot
injure
of times they'll
yourself
just,
or, yeah, hit yourself in the balls, they'll let
yeah,
you do that all day long, right?
yeah, exactly. You gotta, that's something you learn as you get older, is sometimes you gotta let people make mistakes
Mm.
because the consequences will be the best teacher.
Yeah, I call it controlled crashes. In parenting, you create lots of controlled crashes. You don't want them to get electrocuted, but if they get the piss shocked out of them, it might be all right because they'll learn pretty quick not to touch that. So,
Yeah. Well, and like about the bigger lack of new people, filling these spots, the need isn't going to go away. And so supply and demand, the market will take care of it eventually because tradespeople will be making $400 an hour. Some are already, and they'll be in such high demand that all these jobs that are going to be replaced by AI, all these people are going to be looking around and be like, well, trades pay better than being a doctor, so maybe I'll do that. And so it will take care of itself. But for people that can act on it now, you're almost like ahead of the game. It's like trades is one of the oldest jobs known to man, but if you get into it now, you're going to be early.
well, let's
It's
speak
kind
to
of a
that.
weird thing to say, but that's how it is.
Let's speak to that for a minute, because how could we get the boomers, owners, trades guys to actually go help and find those kids? Like, how do we get them to see that it's now an obligation and a requirement and something that they got to do? Because from my own experience, I see the boomers folding their hands and waiting on the young guns to step up. And I see the young guns afraid to step up and talk to people. And that's really why we have this huge divide in our country and the world and everything we got going on. Because we got one set waiting on them to do it and won't help them, and one set that won't do it unless somebody helps them. And how the hell do we cross this? Like, how do we make this work?
Well, I don't know if I'd wait too long for the boomers and the people who are retiring to care because why do they care? They're going to be retiring soon. They're on their way out. Why do they give a crap? It's going to be like the people like me in our 30s and the people who are thinking long term because we can't solve this overnight. If we all start, getting involved in the community and talking to kids at schools and stuff now, like maybe in 10 years we'll be kind of fixing the problem. So it's a long term problem. And I think it just takes people who are thinking long term to start changing the messaging and the outlook on these types of jobs. And like I said, I think a lot of that will be taken care of naturally because the demand will be so high that the highest paying jobs will be in the trades. And so people will just be attracted to those.
Well, I don't know. I think we've got a little bit of of a requirement and a challenge from us, Chuck, is we've got to find those people and open their eyes to, hey, what's your succession plan? What's going to happen if something happens to you today? Oh, I'll just shut the business down. Dude, you got four guys that have worked for you for 20 years. Like, what are they going to do? They're not ready to retire. What are you going to do with your customers? Like, it's not like they can just call somebody else. Like, you've been doing their work for 15 years. Like, shouldn't you set this up to continue past you? I think we've got to get their eyes open and get them to see that. I mean, we have, I know several business owners I've had that same discussion with lately, and it finally got them to understand that crap, there isn't a succession plan. If I got hit by a bus, six people lose their job, and then what are they going to do? And they got kids, and I know their kids, and I've been to their kids' birthday parties, and here I am. I'm just going to hose them and walk away. Like, we got to do better than this. We're crushing it, by the way, Roman. What do you think? You give us like a 14 out of 10 so far? I should do this professionally. Let's change tax for a second here and pass, Chuck. So let's say we got one of these young guns. Maybe they took over a business. Maybe they're starting a business. Let's take it back to when you were getting started in digital marketing. When you were first starting, how did you get your first customers? What were the actions? What did you do?
In the beginning, I just let everyone I knew, know what it was that I had to offer. And I think one of my first clients was a nonprofit that my mom was a board member. So I got that job.
Bill Gates did.
Yeah. So it all started with people I knew in my network
Okay.
doing everything I could to
So you
work.
Herbalife, Amway, the shit out of everybody that you knew in your circle until somebody gave you something to do.
Kind of, yeah. I wasn't too aggressive about it, but it was definitely all people I knew.
Well, and it
And
was
I would go
actually
to
easier
like,
than that, right? Because once you start talking about what you're doing and you're actually doing something, most people you know want to help you.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, I might have gone and like got a job working for somebody doing what I'm doing now, but I had zero experience, so it would have all been all hustle and no know how. So I started from complete scratch.
Okay,
But yeah, in retrospect, I would have tried to get involved some other way.
so you think if you did it again, you'd go find somebody that's already doing it, partner with them, work for them, and kind of go in that way?
Yeah, because I learned everything through trial and error myself.
Hmm.
And if I could have just seen a couple other businesses like mine,
Hmm.
how they operated, I probably could have saved 3 years.
Sure.
And
And
I've
I
only
think
been in business for 6 years, so that's half the time.
And I think that's huge because we've made be your own entrepreneur and run your own business super sexy. At least that's because all the coaches that are selling you crap to do that, and all the digital marketing companies like yourself that are selling you can do it on your own. I think you miss out a lot if you don't partner with somebody. There's so much opportunity right now and so few people doing it that I think you'd be stupid not to take advantage of that right now, not to go find that old guy that's already doing it and partner with them. And maybe you can't make a long-term deal work. Maybe you guys can't be business partners. But like you just said, you look under the hood for a little while, you'll have it figured out and you can literally go replicate it. Right.
Yeah, like so now that I've thought about it for a second, I would have gotten a sales job, 100%, because you make a lot of money in sales and you develop one of the most important skills you can have. Because if you don't know anything but sales, you can start a company doing just about anything. And you can figure out the rest because you have the customers and the money coming in.
100%. So if we're translating that into actual activities to get your company started, it's literally just getting on the phone, knocking on doors, sending emails, talking to everybody you know, asking them, hey, do you know somebody that knows somebody that can help me and or I can help?
Yeah, I think like if I could go back in time to 20-year-old Chuck and say, "Hey, you're going to be a business owner someday. Here's an action plan." It would start with making a list of every business owner I knew and talking to all of them and just saying, "Hey, I think I want to do this. Like, What do you have to say about that? What would you do? And have a lot of those conversations, because I've found that if you have 10 of those conversations, your path tends to change quite a bit. Opportunities pop up. You'll probably end up working for one of them, and just getting some really golden experience. When you're young, it's all about experience. So the more stuff you can do, the more you can learn, the more you can see. Like that's the most valuable thing, in my opinion.
No, 100%. And as a business owner, I'm never not taking that call. Like I have
Yeah,
countless lunches with people that are just like, hey, I'm thinking about doing something stupid. Can I buy you lunch? I'm like, I like tacos. Like, let's go. Right. And a lot of
yeah.
times it
The
does create an
first
opportunity. Some of those people have come and worked for me. Right.
the first person I ever hired called me out of the blue, and he's like, "Hey, I'm 17 years old. I'm about to graduate high school. I think I want to get into digital marketing." And I was like, "Sweet, can you be here on Monday?"
They're like, what are you doing at 3 o'clock? Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny about him is he worked for me for a little while, and then he came back like 2 years later, and I hired him at the construction company, and he was an apprentice for like a year and a half, and now he's an electrician apprentice. So I've actually hired him at two different companies, and it's all because he had the gumption to just call out of the blue and say, "Hey, I'm a young person. I kind of want to. I think I want to do this." Like that's it. He's the only one that ever called, and I'm the only one he ever called. And like, look what how much it impacted his
He was
life.
100% one for one success rate. Imagine if he'd made
Hmm.
200 calls, he might have gotten with even more successful businesses, right?
I'd probably be working for him now.
Right? What if he'd made 20 calls? What if he had landed the massive opportunity and then, yeah, and then called you back and said, hey, Chuck, I got a better opportunity than your business. And you would 100% take that call, right?
Yep, 100%. Well, and that's, I think you kind of shined a light on a good point there, is like, what would happen if he made 20 calls? And I think like Alex Ramosi talks about this a lot, but like people underestimate the amount of action that is required to get what they want. And, let's just say that you're a young kid looking for an opportunity to go work at a business you want. There is a certain number of phone calls that you have to make that would absolutely guarantee you got a spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Hormozzi's methodology is figure like, what do you think that number is? And now that's your minimum number. That's your target.
Yeah.
And if you just do that, if you make those 100 calls or whatever,
I
you
mean,
are
there's 7
guaranteed to
billion
get what you
phone
want.
calls from talking to everyone on earth, right?
Hmm.
Somebody's
But
going to come
a
your way.
lot of people, myself included, will maybe try something once or twice and then be like, oh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, if I would have tried one more time, maybe it would have worked out.
Had that
So
conversation yesterday with a salesperson. This script doesn't work. How many people have you talked to? 6. Let me know when you get to 600. Yeah.
yep.
I mean, statistics says sample size has got to be 30 or more anyway. So until you do 30 of something, whether it's 30 calls or 30 visits or 30 show ups or get 30 customers, stat says you have no idea what's going on yet anyway. You can guesstimate on
Hmm.
a few, but you're probably going to miss it by a lot. But,
Yeah, and when you're new to something, if you do anything 30 times, you're going to learn so much that you'll
yep.
be doing it a completely different way by the 31st call
30 hours
or
of
whatever.
guitar looks a little better, better than the first 30 seconds of guitar, right? You have no idea. You've never picked up a guitar. So, all right, let's keep moving.
Yeah, I have. I've played at least 3 hours of guitar.
Nice, nice. Only another 27 to go. Let's move on. In your digital marketing company, as you've worked on this and grown it, we talked about getting customers. You got to take action. You got to get going. All those kind of things. What has been harder to do than you thought it would be?
Well, let's see. I think one of the things that was pretty difficult was honing in on marketing strategies that really worked consistently. And I think it was hard because there's about 10 million people on the internet calling themselves digital marketers, and they're all, spouting all these strategies and techniques and stuff, and it all sounds really good. But what I eventually figured out is like one guy would say something and sell a course, and then 100 other people would start saying the same thing, but none of them did it. And so they were only repeating what they heard. And so it's just a ton of people repeating all this stuff, but very few people, like the ones that were actually practitioners, they weren't sharing the info. They found things that worked and then they did it themselves, but they weren't telling the whole world about it. So at a certain point, I just got kind of tired of consuming more information and trying to learn what other people were doing, and I just started basically like, okay, if I was just going to do what I could conceive being the best option, what might I do? All right, let's try that, measure the results, and just start doing things without, just doing things on our own. And our results went 10x, went through the roof. And it's still a challenge to like remind myself, like, hey, we probably know what to do. We just need to do it. We don't need to ask anybody else for advice. Like we can do this.
Well, let me explore into that for a minute because, I'm trying to kind of put a theme to this whole thing of, hey, there's opportunity, you can do this, get started, here's you some steps, that kind of thing. So you actually thought because there were so many people saying stuff that there were so many different ways it could be done that it was going to be easy. And then you got out there and you found that there's really only three things being told, and those only work in certain situations. And so it turned out to be a lot harder than you thought it was going to be.
It seemed more complicated when I was hearing it from other people. Once I really learned how marketing and business worked, it became very simple because there's really only a handful of ways that people find our clients, which are mainly construction companies. And so the majority of the stuff people are saying to do or that could be done is just irrelevant. And so it was cutting through all that noise out there that did it. And I think if there's a lesson there for me is like if you took two people, one person got to watch 1,000 hours of the online courses and then they could go to work. And then another guy started and he didn't get to watch anybody else's information and he just had to spend 1,000 hours doing it. I bet the guy doing it would be a billionaire and the other guy would still be struggling. Like there's
I'm of the opinion that either or extreme is extremely the wrong way to go, right? To me, it's go fail. Like when I wanted to learn how to play golf, somebody told me, go play golf for 6 months and come back. And I was like, well, you're an asshole. Like, why don't you help me? It's like, nah, you just got to go out there and swing the sticks, man. You got to get some time in. You got to hit the ball in the woods. You got to do all these things so that when I come back to teach you, you understand the language and why it matters and why I'm telling you these things. So to me, to go back, it's 500 of each, like woven in between each other, right? And I think that's the advantage that I don't think the young kids understand that they have. Remember, you said a minute ago, you grew up where there was no internet and then the internet showed up and now that all this information is available. Well, they've grown up with it. They're available the whole time. They have a massive advantage. They can talk to a boomer that does it. They can watch a YouTube video of him doing it. They can download an app to do it. And the key step that most don't do, they can go do it. They have a massive advantage over us. There's so much information and so much opportunity that they can fail miserably really fast and watch a YouTube video at 1.5x, seeing everything they did wrong and why.
Yeah, I think it's like a blessing and a curse. Like you have more information
Mhm.
available at your fingertips than ever before, but it's also a trap because you can get stuck consuming information and never doing anything and you won't get anywhere. So
Yeah, you become a
definitely a
lump.
combination is best.
100%. And it's huge. Just get out there and get it done. And I really liked your idea earlier of going to work for someone that's doing it because they're going to make you do it right then. They're going to give you a potentially tried and true way of doing it that then you can bring some technology into and help improve. And then once you show them maybe a better way or a better system or a better CRM or a better app or a faster way to pull the information together, now you can become partners.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage to be able to learn how to do something, even if it's not optimal. If you learn how to do something that's working, then you can improve on it. I mean, I had a bigger ego when I was a kid, when I was younger, but I'd go in and be like, oh, I could do this better. And then eventually I would learn why we were doing things a certain way and then I would get it. But I think it doesn't hurt to just go in and turn your brain off and just learn how an operation is working and then seek to improve it. Does that make sense?
100%. Question out of left field for a second. What took you so long to go out on your own? What do you think was holding you back from doing it sooner? What if you could have put it there for yourself or said to yourself or made yourself do? What would have got you going sooner?
I didn't really get into business for myself till I was like almost 30. And I think it's just I didn't think I could. Like I didn't know that was an option for me. I thought I was the way I was raised, it was like you go to college or you can work other jobs. And I bailed on college, so I was like, okay, other jobs it is. And in my late 20s when I was a carpenter, it was like, okay, well I can get a contractor's license and be my own boss. And so that was started opening, but it was all mindset and beliefs. Like I just didn't think it was for me. I didn't think it was possible. That was for other people. And I don't necessarily regret the path that I took because I had so many good experiences in my 20s that it's given me a really good depth of knowledge now. I can talk to a lot of different people. I can relate to them. That's really helpful. So it's good that I went through what I did, but that's definitely why it took me so long. Just didn't know that I could.
Well, and to me, my youngest son is a senior in high school, and the debate is does he go to college or not? Because he wants to be a businessman, he wants to do his own thing, wants to work in real estate, wants to make a fuck ton of money, like that. Those are his goals. And I think we've slowly talked him into what if you did both, like we were talking about earlier? What if you went to class and got information and education in the areas that you're going to want to go into? And even if it just helps you learn the language while also working in that. So you want to do real estate where we're going to take marketing and sales and speech and all those kinds of classes and math classes, and then we're also going to work as a real estate agent's bird dog or work in the building or help them or join a team or whatever those kind of things are. Because I think you hit on something there. It took you a while to get your legs under you, get some experience. And while I think college is not a requirement for everybody, it could be a good protective place to get started so that you can learn things while also working.
Yeah. I think that every college kid, if they can, should have a job while they're doing it. Because most of the kids I know that have free time that could have a job, they spend all their time playing video games and drinking beer and smoking pot and wasting their time. Um, I'm of the mind like when you're young, you can pretty much do anything, and as long as you put serious effort into it, like the payoffs will be huge throughout the rest of your life because you get the benefit of compound interest when you're young. Everything you do, you've got so much time for it to pay off. So it's like it doesn't even if you go and work for you're as a garbage man, like do the absolute best you can and you'll be so much better for it. And on the same token, you could go to school and work a job, but half-ass the whole thing and not get much out of it. So it's not as much about what you do as like how you do it, I think.
Well, yeah, any opportunity you get, you should take advantage of. You should ask lots of questions. You should take it as far as you possibly can. And then also, if it's clear it's not the opportunity for you, go back to the fork in the road and start over, right? You're not trapped. You don't have to stay there forever. You can go back and try again. Let's switch courses for a minute because we were talking about imposter syndrome and getting started and all that. If you were a 20 something right now and you didn't know what you wanted to do in life,
I get this question a lot from the younger people in my family, and my answer is anything. Just do anything besides sit still and do nothing. So like go get a job, take the first job that comes by. Work it for 3 days, see something else you'd rather do, then go do that. Like when you're in motion, you tend to like new opportunities just start popping up. But it's just as easy to like have analysis paralysis and just do nothing because you're not sure what to do. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, just do anything. That's what I
well,
tell all the kids.
and so many people ask the question, well, what's the best way? Well, what's the perfect way? What's the optimum way? What's the step by step way? What do you say to those people?
I say, like, who wants to only do it the perfect way? Where's the fun in that? Like, when you find the perfect way after doing all the shitty ways,
Mm,
it's so rewarding. It's so
mm,
great. And
mm,
you earned it. And you know why it's the perfect way. You could start out with the best job on the planet. But if it's your first job, in 2 weeks, you'll be like, man, this job sucks
this job
because you have
blows.
nothing to compare it to. So, like, I wouldn't worry about optimizing for anything. Like, get dirty, make mistakes, do crappy things, do things that maybe not that you regret, but like that you wouldn't do again.
No, I see
Just
that
start
even
building
with
those experiences.
I see that even within my own company. So I've got one or two that literally grew from interns all the way to engineers here. And then I've got a couple of people, one in particular, he got laid off like 4 times. You know, he was in horrible corporate environments. He got yelled at constantly. And he's trying to explain to them, and they just don't understand, right? To them, oh, this job's lame, or it's getting old, or it's not as challenging as it used to be. And, Zane's just talking all the time. And then he comes in, he's like, yeah, the place I used to work, nobody talked to me. And then suddenly I didn't have a job, right? Like, I think you nailed something there because I think you've got to get out there and you got to start doing stuff. So if you're 20 years old, you don't know what you want to do in life, sitting at the house ain't going to find it, right? It's the same as dating. You're not going to meet somebody chilling at the house, not swiping right, not talking on the phone, and not getting on Discord or whatever. You're not going to find anybody staying to yourself. So get up, go out, and do something. When I first moved to Atlanta, I knew no one. And I worked with some people that were about 4,000 years old, and they did nothing. And so I had to get out. I had to go find stuff to do. I signed up to get my pilot's license. I worked on up to my brown belt in judo. I went to stupid dance classes. I went to bars that I probably got threatened with my life. I constantly was out talking to people and meeting people, and eventually built myself a base here in Atlanta of people that I've known, and I've lived here 20 something years now that, now I've got family here, so to speak. So, and it wouldn't have happened sitting at home, right? I tried that in the beginning. I would get off work, I would go home, fire up video games till 4 or 5 in the morning, hate my life, be depressed, get up an hour later and go to work, sit there questioning my very existence. At the time, the internet had just started, Chuck, right? So Netscape had just came out, and you could read everything on the internet and get to the end of it. Like I've literally read all of the pages. And the only thing we had to do each day at this job I worked at was ESPN would update at 12:08 p.m. Eastern every day. But it would only be like 3 or 4 lines. And so that was your highlight. You would rush back to your chair to see what updated on ESPN. And it would be like 3 lines, right? And I'm like, this is a terrible existence, right? Like this isn't what I want. Like I gotta there's more to life than this. I don't know what I want to do, but it definitely isn't this. So I changed everything. I changed my job. I cut my hair. I got a new car. I redid my house. I changed my friend network. I changed everyone that was around me. I got out and did things that made me uncomfortable and I never would have done it, any other way. And it changed my life. So I really like the advice you said of just go do something. Doesn't even matter what. Like if you don't know, look up me and Chuck online, connect, and we'll give you some ideas. Okay. They might be crazy. They might be, hey, fly and meet us in Mexico next week because we're both going to a big business conference together, right? What do you think? How do we get these
Yeah.
20 somethings going?
Yeah, well, the ancient Chinese or whoever, they'd figured out yin and yang. Like that's life. Like there's good parts and there's bad parts. Without the bad parts, the good parts don't exist. Like you can't be good without the bad. And so if you don't know what to do and you don't have any good ideas, well, pick one of your bad ideas and go do something that's going to suck and just start down the path. Like stack those experiences, the good stories and the bad stories. I have so many stories of jobs that you couldn't pay me enough money to go back and do that again. But I'm so glad because now when I have a good gig like I do now, it's so good because I have something to compare and contrast it to. Like I've experienced a lot of different things and I can say, okay, this is way better than it was before. And that's kind of my metric for life now is like, are things getting better? Sweet. I know they're getting better because they used to suck really bad. And that's okay. Like if I would have found the path I'm on now in the very beginning without doing all the other stuff, I might abandon it to go do something crappy
You wouldn't
because
appreciate it.
I wouldn't appreciate it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
wouldn't appreciate it. I got a funny story experience around what you're saying. So one particular job I had was horrific. I can't describe it any other way. Like as you said, you couldn't pay me enough to ever walk in that building again. The job was so bad that I actually got with a couple of my coworkers and I came up with an idea. Tell you what, every day we're going to go to lunch at the shittiest place we can find. Horrible food, bad experience, nearly got robbed, pothole ripped a wheel off my car. And we did that every day. So when we got back to work, it really wasn't that bad anymore. We would go to,
Hey, would you go like eat lunch under an overpass or something?
it was so bad. Literally, we'd see a guy on the side of the road with some tacos. Got you. Like, pull in there. Like, dude, we're going to get robbed. It's going to be great. It's better than work. I guarantee that. Right. And we tried it. It
Yeah,
actually
you know your job sucks if you don't want to go home or go back to work after that.
well, I had a boss, and we made an internal joke with each other that we had a couple of personal effects in the office, and we had an agreement that if one of us didn't show up for 4 days, we found a way out and just mail us our shit, right? And the way we could tell how well the week was going, so in one of the big lotteries draws on Tuesday and Friday nights, right? So we could tell how well the week was going by what day and how many lottery tickets you bought. So one morning, Jim walks in, it's 6 minutes into our shift, and he goes, $80. It was Wednesday morning. We had 2 or 3 more days till the next drawing. That's how bad his day was going. So that was our language within this place of what was going down because we needed any way out. And we were literally buying lottery tickets to try to get out of this place. All right, I have no idea what Roman's going to do with that. That was all trash. Uh, Chuck, so we were talking a minute ago about going and doing stuff, changing the things around you. I was relating some of that story. How has your network changed over the last few years, and what impact has that made on you and your business?
Well, my network's changed dramatically. I used to hang out with people I worked with all the time. They were just like me, and so we all stayed the same together. Um, Becoming an entrepreneur and getting into that world, I sought out different groups of people who were doing things that I wanted to be doing, running successful businesses, living lifestyles that I wanted to live. And I just started surrounding myself with people that were doing what I wanted to do and that were different than the people that I hung out with before. And at the same time, I became really selective about who I surround myself with because I realized, and my grandma always told me, birds of a feather flock together. What's the rest of the saying? So do sheep and swine. And you know, you're the average of all the people that you hang out with, or something like that. The five people you spend the most time with, you're the average of them. And so these days, I just try to associate and spend time with people who I admire, who are the way that I want to be, and hang out with a lot of business owners, international people, uh, tradespeople who are my clients, who are constantly striving to be better, and they're doing so by going through all those experiences and trial and error and doing tough stuff to try to find the best way forward. And so, yeah, I try to, my network is comprised of people who are doing things.
Well, talk me through the mechanics of that. Okay, you were just getting started. You're in the trades. You're around tradespeople. You're around people like you. You see you want to do more. You want to be more. All these kind of things. What do you actually do? What are the actual mechanics? What are the actual actions to change your network?
So, two things. One was I've started going to events where a lot of people collected together, people who I thought might be the people I wanted to be around, and I'd go to those events and
You
end
just
up
find
making
them
connections with
online, or
certain people.
you just like how do you find
Yeah,
them?
online forums, people would tell me about them,
Digital
pretty much anywhere.
marketing trade show event kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things happening all the time. Going online and finding them is pretty easy.
Okay.
So that's one way, and then another way is actually two other ways. One is when I saw somebody I wanted to know, I would just reach out to them
What
and
do you say?
I'd say, "Hey, I saw that you are the owner of this business. I'm just curious to know more about your story. Like, can I buy you a beer, or can we talk sometime?" Pretty much everybody says yes. And then the other way is I started I originally started
Weren't
writing
you
articles.
just stopping there for a second, Chuck? Weren't you
Uh
scared
huh.
when you had those like, oh shit, dude's really going to meet with me? Now what? Like,
Oh
what did
yeah.
you do? Like, what were the mechanics?
Uh, Shake, be nervous, go to the meeting, not know what to say. Do that enough times, and then eventually it
Well,
wasn't so
and how did
scary
that go?
anymore.
Like, give me an example, maybe one or two that you did. Not the person, but like you show up.
Yeah. No, like one comes to mind. Like it was at the last job that I had. Um, I had actually already quit to start my own company, but he had tickets to this like home builder convention or something and wanted me to go and represent his company. So I was like,
Oh,
okay. So I went, and there was a guy that owned a pretty big, I don't know, it was like a vacuum company or some pretty big company in Portland. And I walked up to him at the event and just introduced myself, exchanged cards, or I think I gave him my card, but he was pretty easy to find. And I emailed him after the event, and I forget exactly what I said, but I just wanted to like come meet him or have a beer or something. I just wanted to talk to the guy. And he's like, sure, come by my office around lunchtime on Tuesday. And I was like, okay. And so I'm nervous as hell. I go there and I go in, and like my mind goes absolutely blank. I just sit there and I'm just looking at him with this blank stare. And it was like, I don't even know why I'm here. But, I think I ended up meeting with him twice, and nothing super major ever came of it. But that's just what you do. Like you go in and you just go, like, maybe set small goals. Like, I just need to reach out to someone, and that's a big step for you, and it's nerve wracking and it's scary. And you reach out and you're like, sweet, I reached out to someone. Thank God they didn't answer the phone. But whatever, like you made a good positive step.
well, even worse,
And
leave the voicemail, and you're like,
yeah. Oh man, I still leave crappy voicemails sometimes.
I know, I have a few on my phone.
Number one was reaching out to people that I thought might be interesting, or that I could add value to, or that could teach me something, pretty much anything, and just get around them. The second thing, or no, the first one was events. Second thing is reaching out to people. The third one is a lot of things started happening for me when I started putting myself out there through content. So I started writing articles, and then I started making YouTube videos, and I didn't I didn't go on there and act like I knew everything. I just went on there and like said, "Here's what I'm doing now. This is why I'm doing it because I tried five other things and they didn't work. Here's what worked for me so far." And those videos and articles have not only brought me a ton of clients, but they've brought me a lot of really great connections that make up a good portion of my close personal network now. People that found me online came to me and ended up becoming my friends, um, associates, partners. So all three of those things: going to events, reaching out to people I want to know, and then being reachable by people that might want to know me.
Awesome. Let's talk for a minute. So we got a 30-year-old. He's working a stupid corporate gig. He's losing his mind. It's not what he wants. It's so awful. The hardest thing to do every day is to get up and go into that stupid place because it's just going to be terrible. He wants to start a business. Maybe he wants to work in the trades. He has no idea what the hell to do. He goes on YouTube. He does a search. He asks Siri, whatever. And like you said a minute ago, there's 400,000 people telling him all a different way to do it. It's information overload. There's imposter syndrome. There's not knowing exactly what to do. What do you tell this person? How do you get them out of this horrific spot and into something better for their life?
Well, I was that person, except I was like 29, so not quite 30. But I did that exact thing. It was the weekend, my girlfriend was out of town. I played video games for 12 hours straight. I shut them off and I was like, my life means nothing. What the hell am I doing with my life? I hate my job. I'm not doing anything cool. And I went online and I Googled best book on being successful. There was a Reddit post. This guy posted like his top five books on being successful, and one of them was The Millionaire Fastlane. So that's how I ended up at the Fastlane Summit, which is where we met, Zane. Um, so what would I tell that? Yep, there it is.
I think I've
I don't know
actually
where
got
mine
mine
is.
autographed by MJ for one of my kids when he's older.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, to that 30-year-old,
So
for
Reddit
me,
saved you? Is that what you're saying? You were sitting there, you hated your life, you're playing video games, it means nothing. No one would know if you were even there. And you're like, all right, screw this. I'm just going to search for something better. Like, all right, I'm searching for how to be successful. And a Reddit post comes up.
yep, pretty much. Reddit saved my life. No, it's like it wasn't really the message as much as like at that moment I was ready for it. I had had enough. MJ would call it my fuck this event, but I had just finally had enough, and I was willing to try something completely new and make no money, and that was a better alternative to what I was doing. And so, I mean, if you're 30, you're still young, but you're not so young that you don't know anything. So it's kind of around the time I think people start thinking a little bit longer term and saying, okay, well, I'm probably going to be old and on my deathbed someday. Do I want to look back and say, yeah, I spent 50 years working a job I hate? Or am I going to change my story now? And if you're ready, you can do it. All the information's there, all the opportunities there. It's not going to be easy, but you don't want it to be easy. If it's easy, it's what's the point? So, I'd say take stock of everything. And, if you have like a wife and a baby, then you probably have some things to consider. I didn't have any of that. So I could just go make no money and it was okay. So, you might have some responsibilities, but there's somebody with less skill, less aptitude, less opportunity, less everything that has done it, and so you can do it too.
I mean, for me, for that person, if you're 30, you're working a stupid corporate gig, you hate your life, you go home, you play video games, you go to the bar and get hammered all weekend, you got no money saved up, you got no investments, you can't afford a house, you can't afford life, everything sucks. Okay. There's only one thing to do. If that's not what you want, because you get what you accept. And so you've got to make a decision to no longer accept that. And that to me is the key. That's the thing I'm out here banging the drum for, trying to get people to understand that there's other ways so that they see a potential path and they no longer accept the terrible path they're on. Because that's all they've got to do. Once they make that decision, like you did, I'm going to do something different. Now it's just finding the right path and methods and going and trying something, right? Now it's just getting to work. Hey, we'll find something eventually because we know this ain't it, right? That's the same spot I was in. I worked at a big corporation. I did not like it. I hated life. I hated everything about it. And I made a decision I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm really old. So a buddy of mine came by and he said, "Hey, I just saw this job down the street in an engineering company." And I'm so old, I faxed them my resume. I had an interview that afternoon and I took the job the next day. Like that's how fast that I, just like you said, it's that fuck this event. I'm not accepting this anymore. This isn't good enough for my life. I can do better and I'm not going to take that anymore. And you nailed it. You may have some responsibilities and you might not be able to just quit your job. You might have to find a way out that pays the bills and covers the mortgage and puts food on your table and all those kind of things. But you do now you can turn it into something completely different. You can turn it into a game of how good can I get at my job that I hate, that I don't have to be there any more than I need to, where they think I'm even more amazing than I am, so that when I do quit, everyone's surprised and they want to hire me in and they want to pay me more money, but I've already found this other path. Because again, it's back to how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So the first step is to get really good again at what you're doing. Start working out again, start going outside, get some sun, get around people who are doing shit, right? Get around people like if your life is miserable and you're hanging out with miserable people, those are probably correlated. Those are probably hand in hand, right? Get around a bunch of people getting stuff done, and there's nothing you can do but get stuff done, or you ain't gonna be around them much longer because they're not gonna talk to you, right? So to me, it's making that decision. And what I'm really pushing guys like you and myself is showing people there's an option. Because until you actually know there's an option, then it's pointless. It's hopeless. You don't see a way out. It doesn't make any sense. That would never work. I'm dealing with that right now. I've got a good friend that just got laid off from a really high salary corporate job, and his wife is already on him. Well, he had already been talking for 6 months about he couldn't do that job anymore. He was going to probably blow his fucking brains out because it's that bad, right? Well, he needed to have made that decision 6 months ago when we still had the salary, because now he may have to continue doing what he's been doing because that's what he can make the most money doing. But he's got to make the decision that now I'm going to do it differently because I'm going to use it as a conduit to do what I want to do next.
Yeah, I think at least for me, and I'm sure it's the case for a lot of people, part of one of the worst parts of having that job was that if I projected myself 20 years into the future at that job, I was still doing the same thing, living the same life. And so it's like it didn't feel like it was going anywhere, but I didn't see a way out. I didn't see a way anywhere. I
Right.
just saw a treadmill that I could keep walking on. So even if you're kind of stuck in a situation because you have responsibilities, you can go to an entrepreneur event where there's 300 entrepreneurs. Guaranteed there's going to be 10 people exactly like you in various stages of escaping their corporate job or whatever kind of job. And you can go talk to them and hear their stories, and they're going to give you one of the best things in the world. They're going to give you hope,
Mm,
because even working that job you hate so much, if you can see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, you see that, okay, if I just do this for 12 more months and I have my other plan and I'm going to get out, like that gives you that renewed energy. You can go in, do an amazing job. You can be excited every day. And then even if that plan ends up changing, or maybe you end up deciding to stay at the job, like it's that hope and that like zest for life that is going to make everything better. Like there's no business that's going to solve your problems. It's what that business does to you and like mentally that changes everything in your life.
Here's an interesting one for those people who are stuck in that corporate job and trying to find a way out. In the technical trades, engineering, technology, any of these trades, a lot of times your first customer was your prior employer. So it's a great method to get really, really good at your job again and be so invaluable that when you do leave, they immediately hire you back as a 1099 at 3 times your old rate for as long as you'll give them. And you actually can start a business from that. That's actually how my engineering company started. Now, there was a company in between, but my old job customers started calling me because I had done an amazing job there, right? And that's how I got started. So I think a lot of people in that spot, you may already have this solution in front of you. You're just ignoring it. You don't like it anymore. It's old hat. It's the same thing with people that have been married and they're thinking about getting divorced. Like, are you doing your part? And are you getting your 10 out of 10 every day? Because if you were, she might respond or he might respond. And now it's a lot better. Same thing with this job. If you're a 30 something, you've been there a little bit, you got some experience, you got some connections, you got a paycheck, get really freaking good at it and turn it into its own business.
Yeah, and it's certainly not the case for all jobs, but I know working for me and a lot of people I know, I am constantly trying to get a bearing on what my employees want to do in their own life in the long run and the short run. And some of them want to become entrepreneurs themselves. And I tell them straight up, you help me reach my goal, I'll help you reach your goal. And I bet there's a lot of people who are so burnt out on their jobs, want to do something else. If they could figure out how to look at their job as an opportunity and maybe start taking it seriously, have a renewed interest, their employer is going to notice. And when you become super valuable to that employer, then you can go to them and say, look, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. Maybe they'll say, oh, well, great. I actually want to get out of my business anyways. Do you want to just take this one? And it's called an entrepreneur. Like you work for yourself. Your client is your boss. So what do they want? Give them 150% of what they're asking of you, and it'll give you a lot of leverage. If you're in a job where that's not possible, maybe a big corporation where there's a bureaucracy and you do better work than your boss, you get punished for it. Maybe you just need to get the heck out of that kind of environment. I would never be able to thrive there. But one of my favorite things about business is there's no ceiling. If I want to put in more time and more effort, I can get more return out of it. And that wasn't the case with a lot of the jobs I worked, but there were some of them where that was the case. If I wanted to work extra, I could make more, I can gain more opportunities. So, you might find that just by looking at the job you have in a new light, there might be something there that excites you. And certainly, if you're 30 years old, whatever you're doing should be exciting to you. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, probably.
100%. 100 years from now, will anyone know you even existed? Make an impact, do something important. Let's give you a nice, big, open ended question to end it here, Chuck. And I appreciate your time. This has been amazing, amazing information. You're doing amazing work in your company. If if you could leave one piece of information behind, let's say you go on a walkabout, you disappear, you go to Mars, you go travel and you don't come back. If you could leave one piece of information behind, what would it be?
I feel like I've already mentioned a lot of the things that are currently popping up in my head. Like like the yin and yang thing's a big thing for me right now. Of like it doesn't always need to be good. Like it's okay for things to suck, and you actually need that. Like the sucky is just important as the good stuff. So being okay with that, I think that's a pretty big thing. And you said I only have one, so I guess that's it.
Well, I like that one a lot because growth happens in discomfort. And I think the whole role of paints, it's like you said a minute ago, the thing that you thought was going to be a lot easier was a lot harder because everyone made it out like it was going to be super easy and super awesome and super amazing and everything was going to work perfectly. That is not how life works whatsoever. And that's the big problem with like social media. People post all the cool stuff that's going on. They don't post, the bad stuff, right? But it's the sucky parts of life and it's the hard jobs and the things that were terrible in those crappy restaurants I used to go to that make everything else better, right? They give you perspective. They let you see the the range of what it could be and then begin to appreciate what you have. If all you've ever had is the best ever, then you're just going to hate on that because you have nothing to compare it to. So I encourage anyone of any age to get your ass out there and do something that you would have never done before. That's your challenge for the weekend, right? Go out there and do something you've never done before. I would never go salsa dancing. Well, that's what you're doing on Saturday night, right? Find something that you're uncomfortable and get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then life becomes so much more fun.
Yeah. Social media is a big issue. Everybody's posting all the highlights, and literally everybody's looking at it like, why is everyone else's life so much better than mine? Like, my life sucks compared to that. Everybody's saying that, including the people who post all the cool stuff. So, like, I think yin and yang, if you can actually measure life experience, you probably have like 50-50 good and bad times. And like you said, I know people who they always had everything, super rich parents. They spent summers sailing around Thailand on their parents' yacht, just living the life of Riley, and they're the most miserable people I've ever met. And I know some people who have like the toughest lives ever, and they're like the happiest people I ever met. And it doesn't matter who you are, like you have good and bad experience in your life, and that's just part of it. And a recent lesson for me is just to be okay with that, be okay with things sucking, and even kind of look forward to that. Like you said, be comfortable being uncomfortable. The There's a Chris Williamson podcast where he interviewed God, what's the guy that runs 150 miles? David Goggins. He interviews David Goggins, or no, is Andrew Huberman interviews David Goggins, and Goggins is talking about how he lives his life in the sucky experiences because that's where he finds growth. And Huberman's brought up this recent study that shows that there's like actually a part of the brain that gets bigger and lights up more when you're doing stuff that sucks. And when I heard about that, like I was going through this phase where I was like, how do I make exercise fun? How do I make this fun? Like how do I make everything enjoyable? But it's like A, you don't want that, and B, you can't have it. So you might as well not try. But it's like you you don't want it to be comfortable because it's that uncomfortableness that makes this part of your brain get stronger. It's what makes you tougher. And so it's like you don't even want it to be easy. It makes me think of cold plunges. Like Roman was doing cold plunges every single day. That had to be getting easier as time goes on. And that means that part of the brain had to work less and less because you were getting comfortable with it. I don't know if you ever get completely comfortable with 35-degree water, but the point is like it's okay for things to suck. And if you're going to pursue, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, like you might as well embrace it, grit your teeth and bear it. And that's the price of being alive is some things suck and it's okay. That's what I would leave the world with. It's okay for things to suck and be really grateful when things don't suck.
All right, I think we flip it for a minute. Chuck the contractor should ask me some questions.
Um, what's more important to you, legacy or impact?
Well, I mean, legacy is going to come from impact, but to me, it's making an impact. I'm here, I'm now. If not me, who? There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and I got to help find people to make it happen. My company doesn't have my name on it. That's by choice. It was always meant to be bigger than me. I also have a really tough to say last name. So I thought about one day, like if I paid enough money to build an engineering hall at a university, I would not put my last name on it because I don't want students to have to come up with what the hell that's pronounced every single day when they're trying to go to class. To me, impact is super important, and it's now an obligation and a requirement and an opportunity all rolled into one in my life. I have the chance to do it. I have the ability to do it. I have the experience. I have the skill set. I have the connections. I have everything that's needed. I must do this. So, impact to me is incredibly important.
Cool. Yeah, someone asked me that the other day. They're like, "What's more important to you, legacy or impact?" And my thought is, I don't care if anyone remembers who I am as long as I made a good impact. Like once I'm dead, who cares? Like why would I care? But while I'm here, I want to know that I'm doing something. How long have you been business owner?
So, I grew up in a small business. My dad was a contractor and built houses. And so I grew up in it. I knew what it was about. I knew what was going on. But my business started, like I said earlier, I had some old customers that wouldn't take no for an answer. Jokingly, we're going to drive out and put a bag of money on my porch. And that's how my company got started. And that was 2003. So that was 20, almost 21 years ago now. I did that moonlighting and working a job and then doing my side business, sole proprietorship company for about 3 years. And then I landed this massive job with a customer. And here's a good story for you. So a good friend of mine, he was, I'll call him a competitor. He was more of a, not even a rival, more of a mentor. He was also doing engineering consulting. And he gets this call and he goes, Zane, I messed up. He goes, I had this company call me and they're in Iowa. And he goes, they want me to come be their new plant manager. And they said to just give them a number. And he goes, I took the biggest number I could think of and I doubled it and I added 25%. And now I'm going to fucking Iowa. He goes, this sucks. And he goes, I have this client. They just gave me a major project and there's no way I can do it. Do you want it? And I said, sure, I'll take it. And I really hate that you're having to go to Iowa because it's going to suck. And he was like, agreed. So off he went to Iowa. And now I have this project and it's, hundreds of man hours and I'm one man and I don't have any employees. I don't know what I'm going to do. And, I'm stressing. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. Well, I go into work the next day because I'm moonlighting and I get called into the conference room and there's my manager who will not look at me and an HR guy. And I get laid off with 5 months severance. People are walking out of this. They let off like 200 people. People are walking out of this building in tears. They've been there 30 years. They don't know what they're going to do. Their wife's going to leave them. I'm high fiving people. Yeah, baby. About to start my company. Yeah, here we go. Like I got my runway. And I actually called one of my old guys that had worked for me before. I was like, are you ready? He's like, I'm ready to get the hell out of this place. I was like, we start tomorrow. So I incorporated the company. He hired in like 10 minutes later and off we went. We've been doing it since 2006.
That's a super cool story. If you could send yourself like one text message back 21 years ago, like what would you say? And you can't say like buy
Buy
Microsoft or
Bitcoin.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Buy
Buy
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Tom Brady's going to win every Super Bowl. Yeah, whatever. I don't think I would. I've thought about this a lot. I grew up, Doctor Who was a big thing. Time travel was a big thing. Time travel in movies, I dig those. Any movie that's got time travel, I'm in immediately. Loopers, all that stuff. I am 1,000% into that. I don't think I would send that text. I really don't. It's the butterfly effect. It's the what effect would it actually have? Because I don't think in that text message you could get the context. Like, if I was trying to give a piece of advice, I would say something like it's all about mindset. It's your mindset. Mindset's all that matters. Make the decision. Like, if I could get that across to myself at a young age. Or something, you said we can't just buy Bitcoin. I probably would say read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 5 years before you did, because when I worked for my dad and he was in construction and he sold real estate, had I understood the game, he and I would both be billionaires, right? So that would be my Marty McFly Back to the Future, sports book moment thing. But back to what I would just send myself, I don't think I would, because I think it would change who I am, and all my experiences make up who I am. But to me, the most important message to get across to any human whatsoever is it's your mindset. It's how you frame and interpret what's going on around you in your life. That's really all that matters, because any change you want to make, that's the only change you have to make.
So if somebody's hearing that and they think, oh well, maybe my mindset sucks, what's a good step towards remedying that?
It's a really good question. And I think the important thing, if we're passing this along to the people coming behind us, is get around some people that are who and what you want to be, and start to kind of track down what is their mindset. What does it take for them to do what they're doing and get what they got and go where they're trying to go, and all those kind of things. And in the olden days, pre-internet, we would read biographies of super successful people to try to crack the code on what were they doing and thinking and how did they act. And that's really all it is, right? Is who can out pattern. So if you're trying to change anything, the first thing you've got to change is your environment, right? So think about it. If I'm on drugs and I go to rehab, I've changed the environment so I get off drugs. But if I go back to the same environment, I'm back on drugs. So the environment is what matters. I've got to change that. So that can start with simply just taking information from different sources. Anytime, when my mom was alive, if she called me angry, I would tell her to turn off Fox News and then let's talk, right? Because we needed to change the environment quickly. That's what it's all about. Changing your information sources is one quick way. The problem you mentioned earlier is you end up in a paralysis by analysis, because you get so much information you don't know what to do with it nowadays. And that's where you've got to find those people that are doing what you want to do and go talk to them. That's when you got to, hey, I want to be a real estate agent. Well, who's somebody that's a real estate agent? Well, go hang out with them for a day. Oh, I want to, work in a drugstore. Well, go hang out at the drugstore for a day. Tell them you'll sweep the floor for free just to watch. Like, get in the environment of what it is you want to do, figure out if that's what you want to do, and it's going to change everything about what you got going on. If you're depressed, get up, exercise, and go hang out with some not depressed people, and it's going to be really hard to be depressed.
Yeah, that reminds me of the first Mexico trip that we went on, and I heard Alberto's story. And Alberto, he teaches people, he sells like online courses now, teaches business professionals how to make more money. And I don't think he's worn a shirt or shoes in like 12 years. He just lives on the beach all the time. And I'll never forget him explaining his story and how his business works, and me thinking like that is so simple. And then looking over at my business and it's like so complicated and unprofitable compared to his. I was like, okay, it can be simpler. I I can choose what lifestyle I want to live and live it. And so I think your advice on getting around the right people or the wrong people, just get around some different people and
You
like,
need different opinions. You
yeah,
need
look
a
and
lot of
see, like,
opinions. Anyone can teach
ask
you something,
questions and
right? Everyone can
mhm.
teach you something. They might teach you that they're an idiot and you don't need to talk to them anymore. And that's okay. You just learned something, right? Now you don't have
Well,
to
yeah,
waste
it's
time.
it's back to the yin and yang thing. Like you need to be just as aware of the wrong information and the things that you don't want as you are of the right information and the things you do want. Like you need all of it. So that's what's cool for young people or anybody really. Like there's no wrong thing as long as you're learning something and it's helping you move forward somehow.
Let's explore that for a minute because I think that's a really good point. Okay. So you want to gather as much information and advice and talk to as many people as possible. Okay. But key, absolute key, you've got to make your own decision. Don't just follow Chuck's advice. Don't just follow Zane's advice because it might be great for Chuck or Zane, but it might not be good for you. What you want to do is you want to go into everyone's advice and assemble the right pieces that fit your puzzle, that fit your life, that help you do what you want to do. And not everybody's cookie cutter super system step by step is going to work for you. So take the parts that work. And that's where I get back to everyone can teach you something. Even a bad book, like I've got a lot of books I haven't finished, but I got something out of it. And sometimes it's a challenge. Like I'll go to some seminars and I have to challenge myself to learn something. I may have just learned I'm never coming to this dude's seminar again, but then I'll challenge myself to meet someone while I'm there so I get something out of it. But back to what I was saying, it doesn't matter how much information and advice and all those things you have. If other people are making the decisions for you, it's not going to be the life you want it to be. You've got to make your own decisions. And that gets into our advice we had earlier of now just go do something. If you're out there doing stuff, now you're applying these things you heard and seeing if they're real. Like, let's test them out. If Chuck says all I have to do is make 20 calls, well, let's make 40 calls and see if Chuck's right. And if he's not, well, wait a minute, did we hear Chuck correctly? Well, let's call Chuck. Chuck, you said 20 calls and this was going to work. No, that's not what I said, dude. Finish the rest of the clip. It said make 20 calls and 20 emails and go see them 20 times and make 40 offers. Oh, okay. Right. So that's in any information that you find and any advice that you have. Make sure you are patterning it to your own life and making your own decisions about it and testing them out and testing their theories. It's back to parents. Parents probably know better than you, but their theories may not work anymore, right? If grandpa says, just take your resume in and start work, you're probably going to be escorted to the door in handcuffs, right? It's not going to work nowadays. But the advice of go there and talk to them is great advice. You may just have to do it in a different medium. So adapt it to your current situation and who you are and what you're trying to do.
Hmm. Yeah, so a couple little things there. Take in all the information, all the experiences, make your own decisions, and don't be afraid of making the wrong decision because most things aren't permanent. Like, unless you're talking about getting a tattoo or having a kid or something,
Laser
but
those
most
off, man.
decisions that most decisions you make, like, it's not permanent, so it doesn't have to be correct all the time. And you should learn something from the right choices and the wrong choices.
So, Chuck, how does everybody get a hold of you? Where are you? What are your handles?
You can find me on YouTube, Chuck the Contractor. And if you want to get a hold of me, go to the description of any video, find the link, click it, jump through the hoops.
Outstanding. All right, I'm Zane with Zane Engineers Life, and we'll make you better.